Big black nigga coming to get you. Oh shit. I see a goose. A goose in the motherfucking ghetto. A goose in the ghetto. What the hell is going on here? Come on, pelican.
Breaking news.
Shut up, bitch. This is a Ghetto News Alert. I am your host, Ghetto Ass Nigga. Over the last number of months, Yeshua Pandera, who also goes by the name of Player Lord and Mr. DMT, has been complaining about YouTube deleting his comments. And just recently, during the last video that Mr. Pandera uploaded, his brother Riz Merite left a comment, and Mr. Lord, he figured he should take a screenshot of this comment just in case it was deleted. The comment that Mr. Pandera screenshotted, I quote, "My brother, you have my whole house say it's your ass, Mr. Postman, play pimpin' and big black nigga coming to get you." Apparently, that comment was deleted by YouTube once again, and once again, Mr. Pandera was correct about YouTube deleting his comments. How the fuck does he know this shit? I don't know, but we recently tried to get in contact with Mr. Pandera, but he was busy making his new video called Bobby Hemmitt, Human Artificial, and the Anunnaki. But here at Ghetto News, we were able to get in contact with one of the persons involved with this controversy. Live from Gary, Indiana, we have Big Black Nigga. Thank you for joining us, Big Black Nigga. Big Black Nigga coming to get you. Okay, so Mr. Nigga, tell us exactly what is it you're upset about. When we contacted you, you said you were a bit upset about this controversy that's been taking place since you've been displayed over on YouTube land.
Yeah, well, I've been a little more famous now, more recently, since I've been on Yeshua Bender's channel, but it's not easy for me, trying to get reparations, and going through the shit that I've been going through in my life, it's not easy. I'm being teased, people think it's funny, they laugh at my big lips, they laugh because of my my bald head, and how black I am, and I can't even go out no more, it's a shame I can't go out to a restaurant, every time I go to a restaurant, people they gotta laugh at me whenever they see me eating chicken, it is what it is, but it's hard, I got feelings, man, I got feelings, I can't deal. I don't like nobody no more, man. I gotta get rid of everybody, everybody, I don't like nobody,
Are you telling me that you don't like anyone at all?
No, I don't like nobody. No.
What about your daddy?
Yeah, my daddy, he's cool, he's cool, man, yeah.
What about Barack Obama?
Now, I don't like that motherfucker, man. Stop playing with me, man. Come on, man. Now, come on, man. What's up, man?
Michelle Obama.
Well, I don't like him either.
That's our Ghetto News report for this evening. This has been a Ghetto News Alert. I am your host, Ghetto Ass Nigga. We now return you to our regularly scheduled program.
Right, come to get you, yeah.
Player Lord is here.
God damn! This nigga's crazy. Shut the fuck up!
Yeshua, Pandera.
Player Lord is here.
You hear that, demons? I'm back.
Go on and laugh. But you won't be laughing on the last day when you stand before the Lord in judgment. Behold, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
I was planning on uploading this video this coming Sunday, but I was able to finish this video a good number of days early. So I was like, what the fuck? I'll upload it now. Let's do that shit. What is up, my gods and goddesses, kings and queens, niggas and niggas? Much love. Much love and respect to all the righteous Jews and Gentiles. Give me a second. Let me cut this shit off. Okay. As always, especially when I make a long video like this, I always tell y'all what the video is about. And I'm going to do that in a minute. Go into a little bit of details about what this shit is about. But first, I want to give a shout out to YouTube channel Moon Empath. who sent me this information. Now, this is, let me see, give me a second here. I gotta read y'all something, as always. And as always, let me see if I can get this shit right. Start, so I won't start fucking up as usual. But this information that was sent to me is about Jesus. Old Kanye West. Old Jesus walks. He all right. As you can see, the date on here says November 24th, 2019. So this is, I'm pretty sure y'all know about this shit, yeah. This motherfucker, he got his own Bible and shit, yeah. And in that so-called Bible, you know, they replaced God with his name and all this shit, you know. But this is a perfect segue for this Bobby Hemmitt video. Now, of course, I'm sure y'all also know this motherfucker. He ran for president in 2020. It's your ass, Mr. Postman. But let me get to this shit. I want to read this thing right quick, because I saw something in this article that caught my eye. Listen to this shit, niggas. I'm just gonna read this little part right here, because like I said, this is perfect to begin this video. Bobby Hemmitt, human, artificial, and an Anunnaki. I'm just gonna read this little part. Listen to this shit, niggas. Listen to this shit, niggas. One thing that really stood out to me when reading the book of Enoch decades ago was the war angels. They are so looking forward to being called off the spiritual bench. Enoch said the profanity they used against the fallen angels was unheard of. There is a deep resentment carried by the war angels over the fallen angels and those who worship them. This will not end well for Kanye or those who follow him. Let me read that little part one more time. Listen to this shit, niggas. For all you snotty motherfuckers out there. I've been telling y'all about this shit. Look at that shit. Enoch said the profanity they used, talking about the war angels, God's angels. Enoch said the profanity they used against the fallen angels was unheard of. War angels. Angels of God, the creator, the source, the most high. These angels can't wait to get in this fight, and they cussing their motherfucking ass off. Sounds familiar, don't it? I told you, motherfuckers. We are not who y'all think we are. Y'all been lied to big time about all this shit. And if y'all don't get these images of these angels that they put out and ingrained in our mind and shit, y'all don't get that shit out of y'all mind, y'all gonna get fucked up. Now, how many so-called Christians read the book of Enoch? But that book wasn't canonized. That book wasn't canonized by who? The Illuminati, motherfucker. Oh, brother. Read, motherfuckers. There's more books out here than just the Bible. And Bobby Hemmitt in this video referenced many books. He knows what he's talking about. Now, this video ain't no motherfucking joke. And this video, the things that Bobby Hemmitt is going to be talking about, It ain't just about the white race. Because what people need to understand or overstand is that we have, we always using different names. God, Creator, Most High, Source. Everything comes from the source. But you got other creators as well. You got little G gods. You got fallen angels, reptilians, whatever you want to say. Elohim, Yokub, all these names. And Yokub, a lot of people are saying that that's Jacob in the Bible. So I told y'all that we have to accept the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And a lot of people refuse to do that shit throughout their life, and that's why they're getting fucked up. And myself and many of my brothers and sisters, we've been doing everything we can to get people to understand that you can't half-step with this shit going on. You got the source, but you got Luigi gods and all these motherfuckers as well. A lot of them who ain't shit. Regardless of the names, because also in this video, as y'all know in the title, I got Anunnaki in there. I took some clips from a old video that I made about the Anunnaki because it goes perfect with what Bobby Hemmitt is talking about. Because we got a lot of creators, y'all. And everybody wasn't created by the same person or persons or entity. And we have two groups of saviors. We got those like myself, my brother Riz, my Queen Catherine, just to name a few, 144. We are the saviors. Those who are saving people and saving souls. Then you have this other group of saviors. They want to save the world. They want to save this wicked ass world. Not you. And in order for them to, they successful at saving it, which they're not. But if they successful at saving this wicked ass world, then that means they gonna keep your ass in slavery. So, regardless of what color you are, especially based on, I meant to say regardless of what race you belong to, but we always looking at the skin color more than anything else. And no matter who your creator is, you're gonna have to make a choice. Because we ain't all created by the same God. And y'all need to understand that and get in where you motherfucking fit in. Because you got the real saviors, 144 for example, and you got them wicked ass motherfuckers, little G guys, whatever you want to call them. They want to save this wicked ass world, this wicked ass system, so they can keep your ass in slavery, destroy your ass eventually, because that's what this is about. I told y'all, fallen angels, this overall thing is about destroying as many of God's people as they possibly can. They want to destroy everybody and everything, including their own people. And the real saviors, we've been doing what we can to save any and everybody, no matter what color they are. So y'all better peep game to this shit, because it's a lot. It ain't just the white folks that was created by these little G gods, fallen angels, Yokub, whatever you fuck you want to say. All these names, you got other creators. And these other creators, those who are wicked, they want to destroy everybody and everything. So y'all gonna have to make a choice. Get in where you fit in, or goodbye. This video, the first part of this video I'm gonna show y'all is just under 7 minutes, and it's basically an introduction to who Bobby Hemmitt is. And if y'all don't know who Bobby Hemmitt is, shame on you. But you'll know after you watch this motherfucking video, especially once you watch the whole thing. But the first video that I'm gonna show y'all is like an introduction, letting y'all know who Bobby Hemmitt is. That was a radio interview that he did. I believe it was in 2009, and it was done by Miss Blue. Of course, all links will be in the description box if y'all want to check the shit out. The main video, Bobby Hemmitt speaking. Brother put this video up. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been 2012. And that radio interview and that video, both of them was 2 hours long, if I'm not mistaken. So anybody want to watch the whole video, then listen to the entire radio interview and all that shit, links will be in the description box. So, yeah. Bobby Hemmitt, human, artificial, and the Anunnaki. Let's do that shit.
Hold on to your dookie. It's about to get spooky.
Welcome to the remix, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. Peace and greetings to you. Welcome, Bobby Hemmitt.
How you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Yes. How's the remix doing?
The remix is wonderful. We're even better now that you have gifted us with your presence this evening. So we're going to go ahead and get straight into the show, Bobby, and I know you have so much that you want to give us this evening, and that will be received that way as well. I want to start out by asking you a question. For those of us out here or those out here who may not know, how did Bobby Hemmitt sort of come to be?
Well, most people will find out that if they get on a journey and they get to the point where they start enlightening people, that basically it was a movement that started probably from birth, although you wouldn't even know it and you wouldn't even have a clue until the appointed time. And I was like I said, I was a college-educated guy that was had a career in New York, Avenues of America, designing shoes, and so that was. And fortunately, I was able to get to it. Fortunately, I was able to get to it and be successful as starting. I'm just going to let that phone ring. You know, that's the sad part about being popular. You get a lot of calls. So anyway, I was on my way. I had already made the contacts and was already within the field. And what happened was I was studying this particular information like everybody else in the late 1980s when the resurgence happened. You know, we've had these different resurgence of information, the 1930s, you know, the 1960s, the early 70s, and in the black community, they emerge and then they submerge, or they rise and then they die. So the new one started in the late 80s, and so I was at the right place at the right time to get on the bandwagon when different scholars like Asa Hilliard, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Francis Cress Wilson, and all of these cadre of scholars started coming back out. And at that particular time, I'm still over in the AU Center in Atlanta, at Clark Atlanta University.
Right.
And so when it hit, I was still within the student confines. You know, you know, so I spent about 8 years in college. You know, basically for room and board. You know, I figured out a way to take the college grants and to get 3 hots in a cot and can move about on the college circuit wherever I want to go. If I didn't have no money, I want to get to another city, I just go enroll in school, get in the dormitory, and then work my way through, you know, through the community. But anyway, this thing emerged, and this particular consciousness, I had already started studying it, and right after that I went to New York right in the midst of that. And then one day I had the contract. I had a warehouse in Florida that they hooked me up with. They was getting ready to open up a store in Lenox Square Mall. I mean, it was real high-end shoes that time, like Bally and Cole Haan. So it was getting ready to do that. A guy by the name of Roger Bowman. I was working for him and his wife, Barbara Bowman. And so they was going to launch me as the new black in thing in fashion.
Right.
And then one day I looked up and it was a year later, and all I was doing was studying and hadn't even come back to my contacts. I just walked right out of it. And didn't know what happened. It was like the spirit just took over. And about 4 years later, I asked the question, what happened? Why didn't I go through with my career? And the spirit world said we had to work around the clock to get you out of that, to do what you had to do. Do what your purpose was, your destiny. So there's always a spirit realm working towards certain things. And so basically they had to work to a particular point because I was getting ready to, I was turning 30. And in ancient Kemet, you're only an adult at 30. It's called the Kim Heru. So you only become an adult at 30. And so I was turning 30, and lo and behold, they worked around the clock. And to make a long story short, I actually opened my first lecture. Actually, I opened for Steve Coakley during the time of the Rodney King uprising, or the so-called riots, or what, you know. So that Saturday after the Rodney King riots, I opened for him. And it wasn't trying to open for him. I just walked in the building. About a month earlier, I had broke down this Dogon mystery that I was researching. And I walked in the building. He's like, no, brother, you got to come up here and get this to the people. So once I opened for him and the Atlanta community, conscious community saw it, it was like, you're doing a lecture on the 27th of June. That's 1992. And the rest is actually history. So the spirit actually leads you in the direction. There was one guy that was a medical doctor, and he was a medical doctor for years. And then in the 1990s or the 1980s, like 1985, he just started writing these Gnostic books and these spiritual texts. And they was like, well, why did you leave your practice to do this type of work? He said, oh, that was just biding my time until it was time for me to do what I was born to do. You see what I'm saying? So basically we have these things that we're sent to do, and that's why you have to listen to your inner self and your inner heart. You see, and not listen to what society says, or not listen to what family says. Family is the worst entity when it comes to spiritual things. Family is one of the worst entities when it comes to spiritual paths, because some people will die trying to influence their knucklehead families. So if you can get past that, you can get your own path.
He's going to talk to us about the making and the history of the white man. Brother Bobby, how you doing this evening?
How you doing?
Okay.
Everything's cool.
Okay. So what can you tell us, that maybe we may say that we already know or we don't know, that you can enlighten us on about the making of this white man?
Well, back in 1993, I did a tape called Human Artificial. And I did it in a lecture format, so I pretty much stuck to the main course of trying to explain the origin of the European based on the historical documents. I put out this particular pamphlet a year later in 1994 called the Human Artificials, and it went around the country, and also it's called Kemetic in Ancient Documents of the Living Devil. And it was a real popular piece. I mean, people Xeroxed it till the graphics broke up. But what I was trying to do, this book was a consortium of different fragments from ancient and modern people dealing with the research of this European being created, or made, in so many words, based on genetic engineering. And so since 1994, I've gotten tons and tons of other research, so much until if I was to put it in a book, it would take up about two of these books. That's how much information. But we don't have that much time. The information we have covered before. But what I want to do is to give an update or revisit this particular material from 1994 and put some new research down. In the school of academia and Western education, but and basically a good structure for education or academia period is, in academia you go by two types of systems, two types of ways of looking at things. Number one, if you want to get to the truth, the first thing you have is anthropological or archaeological evidence, or some type of scriptorial or some type of ancient fragments based on, that would also be archaeology, where we talk about papyruses and rare books and rare artifacts that would actually literally tell the story of what are you trying to look for. And this would actually be the basis of the truth. Now, you can have a theory, and a theory could be the basis on what you might say, give a synopsis of what you are trying to postulate when it comes to the origin of something, trying to get close to the meaning. And that theory can be viable, it can be substantial to a certain degree until archaeological and anthropological evidence comes into play. So now, dealing with the history of the European, we have several theories. Well, the white boy just decided he just don't want to deal with it at all. You know what I mean? He analyzes things down to the T. But somehow when it comes to the origin of his self, and when we ask this question, well, if the black man was the original person, which Mead tells you, Mendel, Mead, and different other people, and all types of archaeological finds, late 1800s, early 1900s, late 20th century, all types of archaeological finds, including the, what's that, Newsweek magazine, 1987 or 88, I think it was 1988 might have been, and where they actually showed the two black people in the Garden of Eden, a Jerry Curl version, but still yet. Still yet. This is the basic fact that most humans now understand that civilization started in Africa. But all of a sudden the European, all of a sudden he has a way to just basically become ignorant. Whereas when we ask this question, well, if the origin came from Africa, where the hell did you come from? Because you being the doggone opposite of that origin. You see what I'm saying? In color, prototype, you know what I'm saying? Phenotype, strength, any kind of thing across the board. Well, where did you come from? And all of a sudden, they never entertained the question. Few black scholars tried to entertain the question, but they went based on a theory. Shake hands to Diop, Dr. Charles Finch. They went on a theory of climate adaptability. But it's only a theory. And it stands as a theory until you find anthropological and archaeological evidence. Well, they've always had it, but what I did was I combinated all of this particular stuff 7 or 8 years ago, and we got to the bottom of this. And so, but people still don't want to deal with it. People still want to deal with it. Some people say, well, what difference does it make? Well, it makes all the difference in the world if you have a hybrid species running civilization. People still want to deal with. Some people say, well, what difference does it make? Well, it makes all the difference in the world if you have a hybrid species running civilization.
When we last spoke, you provided some truly shocking information on the Anunnaki. You said Russia has known of them for many years, that Russian forces have had skirmishes with them, and after some time, Russia did develop weapons that could either kill or wound Anunnaki. At the closing of our last conversation, you said an Anunnaki emissary approached President Putin with an ultimatum. I'd like to start right at that point. Do you remember what was the ultimatum?
Yes, my God. Like I said, this villainous race has ability to instantaneously transport from one location to another via a nexus of portals that only they can see. Anunnaki appeared near the MOD and demanded to speak with President Putin. I am foggy on some details, but what I know is this. Arrangements were made between Putin and Anunnaki to meet at Putin's mansion on the Black Sea coast near the village of Paraskovivka. At this meeting, the Anunnaki delivered the ultimatum. Leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, or else perish with the rest of the world. On the other hand, if Putin refused to offer the Anunnaki said Russia would be the first to fall, and its people would be enslaved and taken as food.
Holy smokes. Assuming that to be true, it's hard to imagine why Putin declined such an, being facetious here, a generous offer. Wow. Why would Putin deny that?
Because Mike Putin does not trust them. He may be an optimist, but he is not stupid. He figured that the Anunnaki would dishonor any agreement. These creatures are devilish and manipulative. So Putin told them to go away. We do not want you here. He told, leave the planet and never come back. You know what the Anunnaki told him?
No, but I'm hoping you'll tell me.
The Anunnaki said to Putin, Earth is our planet, not yours. We are the ones who seeded the Earth with strands of life. He said that they grew all life on Earth, as in a giant petri dish. Humans, the Anunnaki said, belong to them, just as your mother's chicken belonged to her. Humans, the Anunnaki said, belong to them, just as your mother's chicken belonged to her.
Be prepared to move without certain communications. Have a plan in place, a meeting spot, a bag filled with necessities, maybe that you travel with. You keep in your car at work so you can get to it real quick with essential supplies, a little bit of food, lots of water, flashlights, matches, lighters, just simple stuff, a knife.
People still want to deal with. Some people say, well, what difference does it make? Well, it makes all the difference in the world if you have a hybrid species running civilization. Then, if you have problems in the world as indigenous people, you can pretty much say that in your lifetime, you should never feel comfortable with a hybrid species that have shown you forms of inhumanity.
So are you saying this European, this Caucasian is a hybrid of sorts?
A hybrid. I don't want to say mutation, because mutation or mutant is a natural phenomenon in nature. It might be a 1/1,000,000th of a chance, but it's still natural. You see what I'm saying? It might be a freak where you have a mutation after so many thousands and thousands of cycles. You have a mutation in anything, but nevertheless, nature does mutate. You see what I'm saying? The earth does have forms of mutations. You see, they go on all the time. So we don't want to call him a mutant. We want to call him a hybrid. A hybrid is a deliberate genetic concoction or deliberate experiment. You see, or a hybrid can be a mistake, but not a form of nature. Because most mutations in nature, although they are very rare, they don't occur to create a whole race of mutations.
You know, over the years in the conscious community, we've always referred to them as mutants.
Mm-hmm.
You're shedding a light on new science,
right?
The hybrid information.
Hybrid, which we're talking about mock. A mock is a copy of the original. It's a knockoff of the original. This is a knockoff Breitling of the original. You know, this is a $6,000 watch in its original state. $39 in Canal Street, Manhattan, New York. This is a knockoff watch. There's a difference. You see, there's a hybrid state, and we need to make this very clear. What we're talking about here is a immigrant human. An immigrant human, something that migrates in. And as the Holy Kabbalah, A.E. Waite's Holy Kabbalah says, it is a, how does he put it? An intruder. Something that is not there in the beginning, that is intruding and perpetrating a fraud as a human. The fact of the matter that it was created outside of the general civilization of humanity, of ancient civilization of humanity, when it did show up, people took it as another strain of a race. You see what I'm saying? Another strain of humanity, or what you would call a different aspect of humanity. All because its incubation period was secret. You see, was secret. And so when people saw it thousands of years later, they automatically just thought it was a form of humanity. And as a result, this has been the mistake of indigenous people around the world, because number one, our nature is that to accept. We accept everything. We accept humanity. And there's a difference. Give you an example of what we're talking about here. Because we'll get into the psychological aspect, but this is a good analysis right now. In the workplace, two kind of doggone creeds, two kind of natures. In the workplace, you walk past a black person you know, you say, hey, how you doing? You feel that person. You walk past that person 2 hours later, you might greet them again. You walk past them another 2 hours later, you might greet them. You might greet them all day. But that's us. We go by what we feel, and we go by how we feel about people. The difference. We go by how we feel about humanity. Whereas a white boy come, he might greet you in the morning. You see him 2 hours later and you greet him again, he might think you crazy. You understand what I'm saying? Now the difference here is this species goes by how you make them feel. So you know the old saying, well, I really like you, but you're not like the rest of your people. That is because they don't feel nothing for the rest of your people. They're only responding because based on the way that you made them feel. You might have made them feel a certain way. It's like the movie Bingo Long and Traveling All Stars, which is a basic fundamental thing in all forms of entertainment in America. They took to the road, they broke off from the Negro League. You know the movie, they took to the road, they said they're going to play white teams. They were beating the hell out of the white teams, and white teams was getting all mad, and they had to go in and start doing all kind of buck dance and clowning to kick their behinds. Because the European goes by the way you make him feel, not how he feels about you. There's a difference. You can produce a certain way to make him feel. He will accept you based on the way you made him feel. But not necessarily accepting you just by being a human. So they can love a Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan has over and above made them feel a certain way based on his talent. But they don't necessarily like the race that Michael Jordan comes from. There is a difference. There's a difference. So we're just talking about two types of natures. Whereas we, the indigenous person around the world, he accepts you just because you're human. And that is the humane thing to do. So these crews that came in, this particular European that came in, we automatically accepted him because something in the way, something broke down where we didn't have full access on its creation because it was created by a renegade priesthood in secret. And that's what we need to get into tonight also too.
Who are the Anunnaki? The Anunnaki, which means those of royal blood, princely offspring, or those who Anu sent from heaven to earth, are believed to be a group of gods or deities that inhabited the earth during the time of the ancient Sumerian culture in Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia itself means land between rivers and sits between the Tigris and the Euphrates river system, which is modern-day Iraq. As for the Sumerians, they were from the land of Sumer, which translates into land of the civilized kings, and is the first recorded civilization of mankind. What's interesting to note, however, is that this first civilization appears to be quite advanced and far from primitive. The Sumerians were responsible for inventing such things as commerce, trade, science, writing in the form of something called cuneiform, astronomy, and even had the first monarchy. Not bad for being the first known civilization, right? According to the Enuma Elish, which consists of 7 tablets in an ancient Babylonian narrative telling the story of man's creation, it appears that the Anunnaki, also called the Anu, are the creators of mankind, and that man's purpose is to serve the gods. These beings were not from this world, but were from the heavens. They can be found throughout Sumerian culture in writings, drawings, and statues, some of which portray the Anunnaki holding a holy grail, which is supposed to depict a special bloodline they've created. What's also interesting to note is that ancient biblical text mentions an offspring called the Nephilim, which inhabited the earth in the early days of mankind. Just as the Enuma Elish depicts the story of man being created by the gods, the book of Genesis also tells a creation story and mentions unearthly beings called the Nephilim. Genesis 6:4 states, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." Who or what were these sons of God that had children with the daughters of men? Could this be the bloodline that ancient Sumerians were also referring to? One theorist, Zechariah Sitchin, who has spent years studying Sumerian artifacts and Sumerian writing, believes that the Anunnaki genetically engineered man by crossbreeding their DNA and the DNA of Homo erectus. Their reason for doing this was to use Homo sapiens as a slave race for mining gold from the earth, a job which the Anunnaki themselves were sent to do. But why gold? Great question, and that is another story.
We are the ones who seeded the earth with strands of life. He said that they grew all life on earth, as in a giant petri dish. Humans, the Anunnaki said, belong to them, just as your mother's chicken belonged to her.
Yeah, and I want to add this too. This is Friday the 13th. You said that.
Right.
13 is a lucky number in the African cosmology.
Right.
It is the number of the star Sirius, and one of the reasons why I think that the Masonic aspect, I don't want to say European because it's not that, it's the Masonic aspect, the European Masonic aspect, they fear it because they know that the 13 in related to Sirius is the star of retribution. And 13 is also retribution. So 13 is also the Horus Heru Christ figure. You got 12 disciples, which is 12 signs of the zodiac, and the 13th man is Horus. So you have these 12 dimensions of the zodiac, which is 12 archetypal images in the human body, and the 13th one is the pineal gland. So 13 is actually the third eye, the pineal gland, which is called the evil eye. You see what I'm saying? To people who are not tuned in. You see what I'm saying? So 13 is also the number of the goddess Hecate, which is an Egyptian goddess called Hecate. Hecate is the goddess of the moon and sets over all witches. Witches come from the word Wicca, but it also comes witch, zitch, bitch, queen of the dog star. So the next time anybody calls you a bitch, you go, that's right, queen of the dog star, Anubis. But the female dog called Anput. So Hecate is the number 13, the goddess of the witches, or the goddess of the crossroads, a female Elegba. But she's the goddess of the moon. So the moon is also the number 13, as well as the moon. The moon is also a number for melanin. See, the moon in the metaphysical thing is talking about melanin. Sama. Sama. Not only is Sama a plant, but Sama is also a king, and a person must have Sama in their blood system to become kings. So 13 is the moon, and the moon represents also Sama, which is also an ancient word in the Sanskrit text for melanin. You see, so 13 is our lucky number. Just when people go, people will go say, Mercury is in retrograde. Well, another word for Mercury in the alchemical text is Mercurus, which is melanin. So when Mercury is in retrograde, that's good for us. For melanin people, when Mercury is in retrograde, it's powerful. But because someone tells you different and you were trained that it is supposed to be all this this dysfunction, then you buy into that. Remember now, unconscious people that don't know nothing about Mercury being in retrograde, it doesn't affect them. It only affects you when you have the knowledge of it. But when you get the deeper knowledge, it's also talking about Mercurus, which is an alchemical term for melanin, the Sol nigger or the Sol niger, which is the black substance, negrito. You see, so yeah, so we are right in the middle of it right now with the whole 13 thing, because the simple fact, hey, that's our number.
That's it. So. That's our number. Right. Wow, we're getting it kicked off, Bobby. I love it. I love it.
Let's get with the evidence right off hand so we'll know, so we can document some of this stuff. Do you know that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is an adaptation of the creation story of the white man? Here's a book called Tobias Curtin, The Gnostics. The Gnostics is an ancient Camite group of Egyptians during the Alexandrian age and during the latter day period of Kemet at the temple of Isis at Philae, you had Egyptian priests that translated ancient hieroglyphic documents from Metanetta into Coptic religion. This is a book called the Gnostics. The Gnostics is a black ancient group, which in actuality, this is the group that Paul, Josephus, and other writers of the, especially writers of the New Testament, copied the Gnostics' work on the Gnostic Christ that comes out of Hemmitt, copied their works. And then when the Gnostics rebelled and said, hey, wait a minute, the Jesus that you're talking about here is not the Jesus that we worship, then the Roman government killed off the Gnostics and took their religion. You see the story. It's always a classic thing when somebody, you got two people doing something, one person takes the other person's stuff and then kill the person off. Well, that's exactly what happened. Christianity is a stolen legacy that was killed off by an ancient group of people that was killed off called the Gnostics. And basically, this is the origin of the New Testament. The key here with the Gnostics is they had a Christ long before the birth of so-called Jesus Christ of 2,000 years ago, which basically was mythological aspect historicalized as a political move done by the Roman government. The Gnostics basically were a later-day Camite group that basically refashioned the same Horus myth. The difference between the Gnostics and the later-day Christians, or what you would call, which is the Roman invention, is the Gnostics said that, as well as the Gnostics, the Hebrews, the Arabs, the Sumerians, as well, just any ancient group. Any ancient group, because there's a discrepancy with all this Sumerian stuff and Babylonian stuff, because in actuality, Walter Williams is right on this one. They talk about all these ancient cultures, but we can't go nowhere and find them. They say that Babylonia was as great as ancient Kemet, yet we can't find up with some little clay tablets. we talk about a whole civilization we can't find. So obviously the white man is making up some stuff. But in so many words, these was nothing but doggone states of the same Egyptian government. So all of it was Kemet. All of it was Kemet. The difference is the ancient world said that the Messiah is to come in the last days. The Romans say, no, we're going to make it come 2,000 years ago. And that is the great mystery that's going on. Sublime mythology makes grotesque history. So we're looking at a person of 2,000 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? That the attributes of the divine Christ is supposed to come back in the last days, in the latter days, which is the god Horus, Mithra, Perseus, Jason, Hercules, Dionysus, Shiva, Krishna. You understand what I'm saying? Krishna, Bacchus, Ha-ur, Raheruka Hootie, Quetzalcoatl, all this particular one was all the cultures talk about. They talk about the end time Mashiach or Messiah. The Romans made it a historical person of 2,000 years ago, and that is the difference. Now, dealing with this, the Gnostics, in this particular book, the Gnostics, Cliff Tobias actually quotes Mary Shelley. And Mary Shelley, in the book, Man the Monster, chapter 2 of Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, it was written when Blake was 59. Now Blake is a philosopher also. William Blake is a philosopher also. When Blake was 59 and said, we were of the beginnings of Victor Frankenstein's quest to obtain powers of God. Victor confessed that during the trip to Fanon, a town near the French Alps, situated in the shores of Lake Lenon, and he goes into this thing where, as she's quoting what Victor Frankenstein is inspired, or what he is actually trying to attempt, and in her novel appears the word or the human Asclepius, and Asclepius
Imhotep.
Is Imhotep. Is the Greek form of Imhotep. And it's the Greek, and this is the same God that all physicians swear to with the Hippocratic oath. Imhotep, which is also given a remnant of an ancient Egyptian school, a mystery system that in actuality, Victor Frankenstein, although a fictional character, is basically a retelling of the same old story of a person that creates his own human. So we're talking about Mary Shelley here. Understanding in these certain occult societies that was springing up all around Europe at the time. And these occult societies that was custodians of different works like your Rosicrucians, who literally had this particular information of the creation of the European left behind by the Moors in Europe at the University of Salamanca and 16 other universities in Europe. They had all of these particular texts. But Mary Shelley mentions Asclepius or Imhotep, which is alluding to an ancient arcane school of knowledge. This is very key. This is very key. This is in the book, Cliff Tobias' book, page 133 of his book called The Gnostics, where he mentions that, and it's in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein book. We're just tying this thing in from the fictional as well as the actual evidence based on fact. Now, going back, isn't it amazing that outside of the fiction, or outside, of the theory, that the only hard-nosed evidence that we have is archaeological and anthropological, which in actuality, we don't have to theorize on this. We actually have the ancient people out of their own mouths giving this particular information. We're going to go through some of this particular stuff. Now, the first thing we need to do, because we're talking about immigrant humans, or hybrid species. The first thing we need to do is I'll give a rendition of this, on what actually went down. Now, in this book, Hermetica, by Walter Scott. It's interesting that this book is not hard to find, but this book is being printed. It's just that if you go to the Rosicrucian Library out in California, they still sell this book. But all of a sudden, I noticed when I started really pumping this book, it became harder and harder to find. If you've noticed, a lot of times, certain books that I talked about, just mysteriously, it became harder and harder to find. And I'm not necessarily saying that in actuality that I'm ego tripping. Literally, people around the country, books that was plentiful until I started talking about them over and over again, this became harder and harder to find. But nevertheless, we have several texts. But this one I think is the one that is quintessential to what we're talking about here. Because in this particular book, on one of the pages, and Lord knows a book this thick with about 545 pages. To close the book and lose the damn page means you gotta labor. Because the book doesn't have an index, because it's taken from ancient fragments. And somehow the book got closed on the doggone page, but I will quote it to you, because all I need to do is just show you the book. Walter Scott's Hermetica, where the Egyptians, or the Kamites, say that their biggest problem was to create another man. That's what the Egyptian says, documented in this particular book. That our biggest problem was to create another man. Right off the Hermetic text, and now to explain something about the Hermetic text comes from is the Greek word for Tahuti. The wisdom of Tahuti is the oldest science and some of the oldest sciences in the world that go all the way back, reach all the way back to Atlantis. I know that that's scholastic suicide for most people of the collegiate world, but let's just understand that the Greek sage, that the Greek Solon said that it was an Egyptian sage that talked about Atlantis. Now, Dr. Ben said that he did admit that this Greek sage, because I got the same text, talked about this Greek philosopher talked about how an Egyptian sage or a high priest told him about Atlantis. He did admit that. He did admit that. But he just said we just don't have enough evidence on it. But there's tons of evidence on this particular information. It's just that it's found in ancient mythology. And we got to understand that mythology, which we've been duped on this one, mythology is truer than history, because mythology is mutu, divine sayings, or true sayings. Mythology is the way the ancients recorded their history. Champollion, who is supposed to be the author of, who's supposed to be the person that actually deciphered hieroglyphics, which is a lie. Come to find out, there was a black man, here he goes again, there was a black man at the University of Chicago that just looked at the hieroglyphics and just knew it based on genetic observation, a genetic memory bank. And he was the one that translated the majority of that. As usual, there's another black man whose story never gets out, and Champollion gets the credit. But nevertheless, Champollion goes to Hemmitt right after hieroglyphics has been translated. He goes to Egypt, sets sail to Egypt, and he writes 16 letters back to Champollion the Elder, which is his oldest brother. And when he gets to the temple of Seti I, he is very upset in his letters about what he found about the origin of the race, the white race. And in this, they talk about this temple of Seti I, they talk about there's 4 races of men. These are the 4 races of men. The 4 races of men. This one down here is suggesting the Tamahu from ancient Egypt. The Tamahu, which is the white man. Now, this picture of the 4 races of men is found in a book, Ignatius Donnelly's book, one of the few people that actually printed the picture. Ignatius Donnelly's book, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. Antediluvian World. This picture here I put under the bottom is found in Albert Churchward's book, Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man. But nevertheless, this is the actual pictures that is explained by Gerald Massey, who is indicating what Champollion saw when he wrote back to his oldest brother, Champollion the Elder. And it says, the Egyptians identified themselves on the monuments as the Root, R-O-U-T. A pictorial representation is found at the tomb of Seti I, and there are 4 races of people arranged in the groups of 4 men each. Here is the picture of the 4 men. Red, yellow, black, and white. Well, we'll go into that. Of 4 men each. These are the Nashi, Anansi, N-A-H-S-I, Negroes, the Hemu, men of a light brown hue, with blue eyes and hair in a bag, and the Tamahu, which are the fair Europeans, and the Root, who are the Egyptians, or the Root, who are the Egyptians. So your Nasi, your Negroes, and your Root are the Egyptians. This is the 4 races of men: the Hemu, the Tamahu, the Nasi, and the Ruti. So we know that the Nasi and the Root, or the Ruti, are the ancient types: East African, West African. These are the typical groups, are not meant merely for conquered races, as may be gathered from significance of their names. The Tamahu are the white, light-complected people. In the Egyptian word, Tama means people and created, who are the created white, light, and ivy. So Tama means people and created. Who means, white, light, and ivory. The Tama who means the created white people. Well, who created them? The Nam is black ink, the Net is blackbird, the Shu is a person of birth, which means the original birth of the original people. The Nashim it was one black born, or the Egyptian phrase, the black egg from the egg, Shu. You see, from the egg, Shu. So, in so many words, the Ruti and the Nashi, or the Nasi, are the original races. Goes on to say that the Ruti and the Nasi created the Himmu and the Tanahu. Going back, we have a link of the Egyptians apparently creating this race of people. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it in the Theology of Time that the Egyptians created the white man. Well, in Hermetica, they say that our biggest problem is we created another race of people. In the Hermetic text, Kamite text. Now, even in the book, in Jeremiah's book, Natural Genesis, also quoted with Blavatsky's book, Secrets of Doctrine, they say that the Egyptians plotted the stars for 40,000 years and didn't tell no damn body. Plotted the damn celestial universe for 40,000 years. They say that they have a 25-year cycle. The Egyptians talk about a 25-year cycle of the world's great year. 25,000-year cycle of the world's great year. Said the damn Egyptians went through 8 of them. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about, just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there ain't no birth records, there is no time. This stuff goes on and for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We're talking about 2 billion years of advanced high beings. Exactly what the doggone mythology talks about. So we're like, man, we don't even have anything that can even calculate that. The only thing we even had to come close to that was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying that the black man was 66 trillion years old, which is a symbolic number we don't know. And it's no different than what the doggone mythology talks about as millions of years. Even in this book, the Nag Hammadi Library, dug up in 1945, translated by James Robinson, in this particular book, where you have a mythology that will span in 2 pages 10 million years in 2 pages of the actual mythology or the actual text. This stuff is very old. This stuff is very old. Remember now, the white boys got to push the timeline up to 6,000 years because that is the time that he comes into play. So this is a form of psychological mind control. If you give the world only 6,000 years, he can justify, or he can tell you that he's always been here. That's what black people say now. Well, we gotta live with them. Not if they only been here a few days ago. Now, going back, the Egyptian priests that we talk about in Kemet, we're talking about literally thousands of years ago. Now, this puts this thing back to Atlantis, these play on words. Whether you call it Egyptian, Cam, Kush, Atlantis, Lemuria, all that stuff. Alchemori, there's several names for the planet Earth. Or there's several names for the planet Earth. You see what I'm saying? Timeri, we got this big debate going on. For a play on words, we just say a long ass time ago. In this case, we'll pick Atlantis. Because we got tons of information on this in the Vedic text, Gnostic texts, several texts, Hesed's Theogony, the Enuma Elish coming out of so-called Babylonia. We got tons of this stuff. The Gilgamesh epics, there's tons of this stuff and it's in mythology. Now, going into this particular stuff, what happened? What happened? Let me give you 2 synopses on this thing. The Rosicrucians, which is a European Masonic group, is some of the custodians of the ancient documents of the making of the white man brought into Europe by the Moors when the Moors ruled for 700 years and set up 16 universities. The Rosicrucians become the custodians of all these ancient texts. And several other occult groups become custodians of several ancient texts. So what we call a quote-unquote Yakub story, the Rosicrucians had one. As a matter of fact, one of the Rosicrucians told me back in 1992 that the white man is an experiment gone bad. He said, but the UFOs is coming to take care of this mess. That was his rendition of it. He said, but the UFOs is coming to take care of this mess. That was his rendition of it.